Okay, I think it's gonna work. It's
Okay.
weird. You have to select the permissions and you have to like give it like all the access. Yeah, that worked. Okay. All right. We are live. Hi everybody. Welcome to our YouTube channel. We're gonna go live in just a second. Jason, you recording on your end?
I am.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Captain's Quarters, the unofficial Star Trek rewatch podcast, where we are rewatching the entire Star Trek franchise, starting at the beginning of the official chronology. My name is Gabe. I have never seen Star Trek, and I'm with my co host Jason, who has seen Star Trek. And today we're talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, the season finale.
Season finale.
Season 1, Episode 10, called A Quality of Mercy. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic.
It's good to be back.
It's great to be back.
Yeah.
We took a little break. Jason and I got to see each other
Y-
IRL,
yeah.
um, but we didn't have time to podcast because we were just having
No,
fun.
it was busy. Yeah, it was fun. We're doing other fun things.
Yeah, exactly. And so, anyone who doesn't know, we have finished Star Trek Enterprise, did a couple seasons of Star Trek Discovery, and then when they jumped into the future, we jettisoned there and picked up with Strange New Worlds. We did watch The Cage, so we're keeping it chronological. And one thing, Jason, you had given me some homework.
I
You said I
did.
sh- you said I should watch an episode from the TOS.
Yeah.
I did not do that.
Okay, that's totally fine.
I ran out of time. I thought I was
That's
going to get to
totally
do it
fine.
today, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, that's totally fine. We can work with that. Yeah.
All
We'll have to
right.
come back to it when we get there, I guess.
I can't wait, man.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to do the brief synopsis via fandom.com, and then we'll get into it. So, just as Captain Pike thinks he's figured out how to escape his fate, he's visited by his future self, who shows him the consequences of his actions. So, as we know, Pike has been grappling with the knowledge that he's going to burn alive, in addition to these cadets from Starfleet. He saw this future via a time crystal uh, with some Klingon monks who are the keepers of these crystals. This has been this burden he's walked around with since that time. And the show is episodic, but they do call back to this. It's been this thing that is just always on his mind. And in this case, um, so what happens is that the Enterprise is on the edge of the neutral zone, which is a narrow band of space separating the Romulan Empire and the Federation. It's the remnant of a treaty of 100 years ago, and basically, yeah, it's kind of like the demilitarized zone that you might see on Earth between two countries that have a history of not getting along. And they're going there to resupply some outposts that sort of maintain the zone. And when they're there are some attacks by some Romulan ships. And in the episode, they allude to the fact that no one has ever seen a Romulan. And that brings me to something for you, Jason. There are three or four things from this episode that you're just going to have to do the heavy lifting for, man,
Yeah.
because I just have questions.
Yeah.
So the first of those questions is this episode opens with Pike doing his thing, which is cooking. He's a known, renowned chef. Everyone
Hmm.
loves the meals that he cooks. In this case, he's making pasta mama,
Yeah.
which looked really good. It was basically leftover pasta, but just like sauteing it with an egg and some parmesan. Um, and have you
It's
had this
almost
before?
it's almost like a pasta carbonara, but sort of.
Does the egg create like a scrambled egg consistency?
Okay, so if you are careful with it, it will not, and it will create a creamy sauce. And that's why I say it's a lot like pasta carbonara, is where it's just missing um, either like a bacon or a guanciale, the pork cheek, um, or any kind of like ham. Um, but yeah, you basically take hot pasta and bacon or the cheek and
Yeah.
cheese
Uh-huh.
and you and a lot of black pepper, and you
Mm.
take it and you allow that heat, that remnant heat, to slowly cook the eggs. And if you do it correctly, you will not get scrambled eggs. You'll get a lovely, lovely cream sauce. It is a hallmark staple Roman Italian dish, but it is a staple dish of Rome, pasta alla carbonara. But yeah, it will not.
So,
If you're careful with it, you will not create scrambled eggs.
and he did not whisk it first. Would you whisk it before you did this? I think he just cracked it right into the pan.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, again, I normally whisk it. This is something that I think he made up, so it's not exactly like a carbonara, but I do think that it is a proto version of a pasta carbonara. And again, I think you can still create that cream sauce by naturally just mixing it with the pasta, and you will kind of beat it in some fashion.
Okay. Would the goal for it to be a little bit runny, the egg?
I mean, in a sense of like a sauce, yeah.
Okay. Hmm. All right.
You really have to think of it as a creamless cream sauce.
Makes sense.
And if you wanted to try it, I would go to the Sicilian Butcher that is near to where you are.
Yeah, do they serve it there?
Yeah, they do.
Okay. Yeah, when Jason was in town, he checked out the Sicilian Butcher a couple times, right?
Yeah, a couple times. It's really good.
Yeah, very cool. Um, so anyway, that was a delightful tangent. I loved that tangent. But anyway, he's cooking that for a lover,
Yeah,
and
it's
this
Captain
is
Patel.
this is my first question. Who the hell was this lady?
Uh, she's it's Captain Patel. They were the ones. I mean, I can't. In the first episode, she's the captain that is with him in Montana. After they've had a thing,
Oh,
their night
she
of
was in
a thing.
Montana.
Yeah. This is. She is like. They have like this relationship, and then they made reference to her. She appeared when. Um, What is the episode called? It's a long one where the child is sacrificed
Yeah,
for the good of their society.
yeah. You're
And when he
that
makes,
was a record-breaking episode for us because you gave it a Grand Moff Tarkin
I did, I did,
ranking,
I
which
did,
was
I did.
the highest
I went
ranking
outside.
Jason's ever
I went
gone.
outside the Star Trek universe, and I gave him a Grand Moff Tarkin or a Grand Admiral Thrawn. Yeah. So they're in a, they're Starfleet captains, and so but they are a thing, and so we've seen her in a couple episodes.
Hold on, who was she in that episode?
So I don't know if she was in the episode, but if you go back and listen to it, I'm the one that's like how do you do that to Captain Patel and make love outside of your relationship with
Got
the
it. Okay.
Grand Dame, or
So,
the Grand Mistress of that
right.
society?
But
I
like,
made a whole hubbub about it because I was
well, but like he doesn't act like he has a partner in this show. I mean, you're okay, that Montana episode, the episode one,
yeah.
and then now I feel like she hasn't even come up, has she?
Yeah, she's come up a couple times. She'll come up more in season 2, but yeah, they have a special relationship.
Okay.
I guess it's open
Apologies,
since
everyone.
he's Captain Kirking it. That one episode. No,
Apologies, everyone,
yeah,
for, you know,
no,
I forgot her, I guess.
yeah.
Um, and so anyway, that happens. So so both of these ships, I mean, I guess that's really what it is, because she's the captain of the other ship, the one that starts with an F, right? Uh was an
Oh
F?
gosh. The Cayuga. She's the captain of the USS Cayuga.
Oh, where did I get F from? Anyway, the Cayuga. Okay. So they're both going to resupply these outposts, right?
Yep.
And um so anyway, Romulans attack, and then at that point, one James Kirk arrives, Sam's brother.
Sam's
Um,
brother.
yeah, and what is Kirk? What is his ship?
The Farragut.
The fair. That's the one that started with an F.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay, got it. So Farragut is destroyed, and so the Romulans, they have to decloak before they can attack. And so Spock surmises that when they are decloaked, they also cannot see you, and that's why they have to decloak in order to attack. And so a big chunk of the episode is them trailing this Romulan ship, and they figure out that, well, they can't see us, observe sort of the particles on the other side of them, and sort of the impact that this cloaked ship has, and we can then see where they are by observing the particles of this asteroid. And they're kind of trailing it. The Romulans don't even know they're there, and we get an interesting interaction between Kirk and Pike, which is that Kirk thinks we should destroy them. They do see the Romulans, and that's when they discover they are some sort of Vulcan offshoot. And then they're like, well, if they are like a primitive Vulcan, that means that a sign of weakness is a death warrant, and you
Yep.
basically cannot show weakness. But Pike just doesn't sit right with him, and so he ends up, after a bit, they do a ceasefire with the Romulan captain. And the Romulan captain's actually pretty cool. He's like, you know what? I too grow tired of war. We'll do a short ceasefire for both of us to repair our ships, and then we'll talk after a couple hours. And there's another Romulan captain who says the same thing, like, you're being weak, we need to destroy them. That Romulan breaks the ceasefire, and
Covertly.
yeah, Kirk Kirk is now on board the Enterprise. He at one point takes a shuttle, which I think his shuttle had light speed capabilities. So that was my second question for
Yeah,
you.
it's got warp capability. It's
Yeah,
got some warp capability.
yeah.
It's not
What
as
was up with
quick.
that? Was that a
What?
thing? A shuttle having warp
Yeah.
capability?
Like warp 1, warp 2. It's not a It's not a it's not a fast way, but yeah, shuttles do have like a low warp capability.
I don't know that I have experienced that in my somewhat young
Yeah.
Star Trek career.
Yeah. Yep. It's because we haven't had too many shuttles yet. Um, it's mostly transport. I mean, some. Oh, the last week episode had um, but yeah, it's not quick. It's not a fast way by any means. But it does have some warp capability. Yeah.
Well, did I miss the part where we skipped in the future?
Yeah, you did. No, I mean you talked about it briefly that the Admiral Pike in some version of the future has come back to warn Captain Pike.
Okay. Well, okay. So yeah, Admiral Pike, as Jason just said, Captain Pike from the future comes back using a Klingon time crystal, and
Mm-hmm.
he tells Pike because Pike recognized one of the names of the sons of
That's
one of the
correct.
leaders of the
That's
outposts,
correct.
and he
Nana G's son.
yeah, I think his name is Watt or Hot or something. Mott.
Mott.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the Nana
I don't
G
even know. If I'm trying.
reference, sorry, but
Yeah.
I do have to take this. Um, for those people who are Kim's Convenience and then Run the Burbs fans will know the actor. He plays Nana G in Run the Burbs, Canadian
Okay.
television. So yeah,
All
which was
right.
fun.
All right. Our Canadian listeners will get that one. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So anyway, yeah, I forgot the time jump thing. Um, but again, I was confused in this episode a lot.
Hmm.
I was thrown off by the lover at the beginning. I was thrown off by the warp shuttle
Yeah, uh-huh.
to the point where I was like, I think I'm watching the wrong episode. I think I'm on the wrong season or something.
No, no.
Anyway, okay. So Admiral Pike comes back and he says, "Hey, I know you recognized that kid's name as one of the writing this letter to stop them from going to that location at the time of the incident, which is obviously good. You're trying to save them and yourself with this knowledge of the future. But just so you know, in doing so, you're going to basically end the human race. It'll have catastrophic consequences."
Hmm.
And then future Pike tells him, "Let me show you." So then he touches the time crystal. And then a lot of that stuff that I was saying up to this point was Pike going to the future and then experiencing like 7 years in the future. And it's a future where he's not supposed to still be at the helm of the Enterprise. Kirk is supposed to be at the helm at that point in time.
Yes.
And so in the future, he confides with future Spock what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I leaped into the future. Spock is obviously questioning this. And then they decide to do a mind meld so that Spock can tell he's telling the truth. Spock believes him. And now they're kind of like saying, like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, and they decide they're just going to like let it play out to see what happens because supposedly something terrible is going to happen. They need to see what that thing is.
Yeah.
So they don't intervene. They just let it play out.
Yeah.
And so all of this stuff I've been saying is in that alternate reality future, alternate
Yes.
timeline.
Yes.
And so when they see Kirk in the prime timeline, I guess you'd call it, really Kirk should be at the helm in this battle, I believe.
Yes. Hence
Um,
watching the
and
original
so
series,
the juxt yeah,
An Errand of Mercy.
I figured. I figured in the Errand of Mercy we were going to see the real version of these events.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but this, so that's interesting that the juxtaposition between Kirk and Pike is showing us how
Yeah.
Kirk would have handled this situation
Correct.
versus how Pike does it where he shows mercy,
Yeah.
which almost worked, except that the entire Romulan fleet comes, including their admiral,
Yep.
and she does basically say, you've shown your weakness, and now we're at war. This is an act of war,
Yeah.
and blasts the Enterprise. Spock is all but dead after this, and that's a big part of this episode because Spock like loses a leg and he's like fried and he's just in really bad shape. And Pike realizes that in doing so, he effectively killed Spock, and he also basically ended the human race because the Romulans are going to attack the humans and they have no chance against them. And so it's showing how him surviving and staying on as the captain of the Enterprise leads to this war, leads to the death of Spock, and that also Spock has some important role to play in the future, so he can't die. Um, and so, future Pike was correct. He cannot write this letter to alter the future, and so when Pike does go back to his prime time and
Dun, dun, dun,
basically
dun.
has a nice touching moment with Spock, telling him that he cares about him, and that was sort of it in a nutshell. One thing would be that the episode ends with number one getting arrested by Battelle
Mm-hmm.
because of her lying about being an augment, and so that was the broadest of strokes that I could
That was
that
great.
that I could
That was
muster.
great. That was
I
great.
mean, even though that took me 10 minutes or so, that's the best I can do, folks.
That was great.
But it has to be done in order to talk about it. So
Yep. That was great.
yeah, one thing I wanted to bring up is we've seen, you and I have talked about the cage,
Mm-hmm.
and this episode, when Pike goes forward and he's on the bridge. This episode has a very unique style. There's a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you call it dead air or pauses,
Mm-hmm.
and just the way that he communicates. I feel like what they were doing was trying to replicate the mannerisms of Pike from the cage,
Oh,
and
interesting. Interesting.
he's like he seems sort of far off and preoccupied, and
Oh, yeah,
it's a
maybe.
little darker, and he's a little bit more dismissive of his crew, and I felt like it was as a way to bridge the Pike we met in the cage and the Pike that we know now. You
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to just make a show and they can't make it seamless, and so obviously when you're what, 50 years, 60 years
Yeah. Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
like,
60 years. Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's just not possible.
Yeah.
um and
Interesting.
it hasn't been an issue, but I felt like this episode was like an attempt to be like, well,
Mm.
this is why our beloved Pike is kind of jovial and likable, and
Yeah.
that Pike was definitely more stern and more far off. He was like, I don't know if aloof or
Yeah.
preoccupied and stressed out, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was burned out in in the cage. But yeah. Um, that's really interesting because the way I read it and the way I watched it is that it's the weight of what decision do I make
Hmm.
that, and I've seen it in a couple of other episodes where there's long pause and trying to figure out what do I do here? What decision do I make? How can I make those decisions um, that will potentially impact my future? And that's
Yeah.
the way that I read it. It's like, especially in this episode, because, they built it as you talked about it in your great synopsis, is that, you know, what does Pike do and how does he play this out as he was talking to Spock? What decisions do I make? How do I make them? How should I approach this? And that's to me where I thought that it is, that's the where he's getting like, okay, I have to take this in. What if I go left and I should have turned right, or whatever the case might be. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's an excellent. That's a really, really interesting point, and I could absolutely see that it was trying to connect back to the cages, the cage Pike that we were introduced to. For sure, Jeffrey Hunter. Yeah, absolutely. But could have been. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Um, cool. Well, good. I feel validated. Um, so sorry,
No.
my computer just skipped a beat. But we're good. We're good now. Okay. So, okay, the other question I had was I told you I had four or five hangups
Yeah,
here.
yeah, 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 absolutely.
Like they kept saying that, oh, now we know what a Romulan looks like, or we've never
Yeah.
seen a Romulan. Like, is
Hmm.
that true?
It's true.
Did we never see a Romulan in Enterprise?
We saw the ship, but we never
Hmm.
saw Romulan. Oh, no, that's not true. We did see Romulans, but they didn't see Romulans. Archer and his crew never saw the Romulans. We saw Romulans. Oh my gosh, what episode were they? Did they brainwash, capture? Oh my gosh, it's been so long. But we did go to Romulus, and you remember they secretively hatched a plan to brainwash or kidnap or oh, they were piloting a ship, basically a drone from they were um they were piloting a ship from Romulus that was attacking, was it a space station or Enterprise or something? And we got to see Romulans, but Archer and company did not.
Interesting. Okay.
Or did they? And T'Pol goes, did T'Pol? Ugh, I am having. Did T'Pol go? Yes. If they are an offshoot of my Vulcan cousins, then yeah. But again, that would have been, 100 years ago or whatever the case might be. 70 years
Okay.
ago, 60 years ago. So yes, that to that point, I do believe they had not seen Romulans.
Okay. Well, that leads me to my next question. So they're saying that this neutral zone is the result of a treaty 100 years ago from when they were at war.
Correct. Yeah.
When was this war? Was this pre-Enterprise or post-Enterprise?
No, it's probably it's post Enterprise.
Okay, because I already forgot how aren't we 100 years in the future from Enterprise? Or that was
No,
with
I think
Disco, right?
yeah. No, no, Disco, no. So yeah, so Disco is about 100. So what was
Well, Enterprise
20?
is like 2150, right?
Yeah, and we are
This show
22
20, I think we're maybe even further.
further. Could be 20. No, I think we're like 22. We're in the 23rd century, so we're 22 like 50, 57, 58, 59, something like that.
So basically, right after Archer,
Yes.
Enterprise, there was a
Yes.
Romulan war.
Yes. And that story has never been told.
Okay. And so basically, if Enterprise had kept going, I'm
Yeah,
sure we would have.
I'm sure we would have. Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Like T'Pol in command of the Enterprise would have been fighting the
Yeah.
Romulans.
Got it.
Because I think Archer by that time, I think he would have been
Retired.
retired or yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, and so I guess big takeaways from this finale are that we still don't necessarily know Pike's future, his fate. We assume he's going to die, um,
Severely disabled.
severely disabled, and now we got to break Una out of jail.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, that was pretty
So,
much it.
what did you think overall of this episode? Because it's interesting to see it because you hadn't seen Errand of Mercy. I'm curious of what you
Yeah,
think of this episode because it's interesting because you get to see it brand new out of the box, right? Without any context, any like anything else, and it's fresh. And I'm curious what you thought of this episode, and I'm gonna really be interested in what you think after we see Errand of Mercy and be like, oh my gosh. But it's
yeah,
interesting. I want to get your perspective on what you thought as an isolated episode.
yeah. I mean, so because I'm not totally isolated because I have these other things, these questions I had for you that I was like wrangling with that were
Yeah.
just maybe distracting me from purely taking in the episode. And I could not help but pick those things apart and be like, what is going on here? Am I on the wrong episode? What's happening?
hmm
Um, I I didn't think that it didn't do the thing that most season finales do where they have this massive cliffhanger. I mean, Una getting thrown in jail, fine, but we know that doesn't stick because we know that she's a character from before, and so we know somehow she makes it out of it, right? Number one is a character later on. Am I wrong about that?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because we are
Well,
post Cage.
okay, got it. For post Cage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, her getting thrown in jail, but it's Federation jail. It's like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that's
Well, she
that's
could get kicked out of Starfleet.
it's true, but I think she'll land on her feet.
Okay.
I guess my point is I'm not too worried about her. And
Yeah.
so
Okay. Okay.
on one hand, I kind of like that they didn't do the trope of like ending the season on like some, cliff, like will our heroes make it out of
Sure,
this
sure, sure,
type
sure,
thing?
sure, sure,
Because
sure.
I mean, that is a 100% what Enterprise did every time.
Yeah.
Some horrible thing is
Yeah.
about to happen, and sometimes it actually was a horrible thing that ended up happening. But
Yeah.
um, this one, they the horrible things were an alternate universe that were erased as soon as he went back in time. So um, I don't know. I thought it was a good episode, as all of these have been with Strange New Worlds. Not like mind blowing. Cool to see the Romulans, which is something that we've been talking about for years now, and it was cool to actually experience them.
hmm
And I don't know. I guess honestly, Jason, I feel like I'm still. I want to hear some of your thoughts maybe before I give my full assessment.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, I think so. I so it's hard to talk about it because I don't want to give like there's because it is a I am gonna spoil it a little bit,
Yeah, it's cool.
but not by much. All
Okay.
I'm going to say is they did a like a fantastic, a beautiful, like a brilliant job at mirroring what we see from Errand of Mercy and
Hmm.
what Kirk does and what Pike does.
Sure.
And it's a great what if episode. Like, you know, and that's popular these days. The Marvel
Yeah.
Cinematic Universe, I think Star Wars, I think is going to do it, but I'm not entirely certain. The what if episode. And this was a
Yeah.
great what if Pike was in command.
Sure. Yeah.
And as a huge Star Trek fan, original series, all of it, I love this episode just because there's like nostalgia, but they did it in a really, really new and interesting way. And it does not, in my opinion, it does not retcon what Spock does, what Kirk does, what Pike does. The actor who plays James T. Kirk, um, oh shoot, what's his name? I don't remember his name, but anyways, he does a fantastic job at playing a very young lieutenant or lieutenant commander, or is he a captain? I forget. Um, Captain Kirk, this
Hmm.
James. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, he is a captain because he's in command of the Farragut. So yeah, he does a fantastic job, and I'm not gonna say too much other than that. Um, Season finale. I get why they did this to show that in every single timeline, because of his cautiousness, his Boy Scout mentality of wanting to do good and trying to make peace, and I totally get that.
Hmm.
And I totally respect that. Um, that you know, it just that it has so many repercussions that does domino the future. I
Yeah.
will say, and I'm not going to get, and this doesn't give anything away, but when Spock is doing repairs in the Jeffries tube,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you go back, you can kind of hear a Scottish
Yeah.
accented voice,
Hmm.
and you're like, ah, Scotty. So
Scotty.
that
Yeah.
was
I thought that was cool.
other than that, that was yeah. And but other than that, um, beyond that, it was a really, really good episode, and again, beautifully done. Different and yet the same, which was
Sure.
cool.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. This has been a great show so far. I love
Yeah,
it. It's been really fantastic. So,
yeah,
yeah. And then, we always do our rankings or our ratings,
yeah.
our grades. I would give this one like a 83%.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
to me, this is four pips. This is a captain's episode. Just because they did like I said, a wonderful job at um mirroring an episode
for sure.
in the prime timeline for sure. Yeah.
Very cool.
And the other thing too is we got the new updated version of the red uniform from the movies from
Yeah.
the
Yeah, yeah.
the Star Trek original cast era, Wrath of
Yep.
Khan to Star Trek the Undiscovered Country, Star Trek 6. And even
Mhm.
in part of Generations, they brought back the little buckle. Yeah, that was cool.
You know, it was interesting too, that just dawned on me, like, so Pike sees the Romulans, but then because he goes back in time, they
Hmm.
still maintain that no one has seen the Romulans
Yeah,
other than Pike.
right.
Um, so they didn't because I assume in this episode that you're talking about from TOS, maybe they say something about how no one has seen the
They
Romulans.
have not seen the Romulans. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, and so that
Hmm.
kind of keeps that intact.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool.
Because there is so there is a no. See, I'm not. No. 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 Mm-mm. Okay. There is a prejudice against Spock. They mirrored that as well in the original series. There is a
Okay,
prejudice, a discrimination kind of dealio, as a matter of fact.
because of the similarity to Romulans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Interesting.
With a crew member. But that's all I will say.
Okay. Yeah, and then another thing, so this discussion reminds me of a thought that I had, which was like, when you say like, what is the appropriate way to watch Star Wars? It's this age-old question
Age-old
of
question.
like, you know, do you start four, five, six, and then the prequels, and
No.
then the sequels, and then go
Yeah.
watch Rogue One? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
basically, release order
Yeah.
versus chronological,
So
which is
you'd
what we were
go
doing,
Acolyte,
right?
uh,
Episode
uh,
one,
no. Yeah, episode one,
yeah,
two, three, Clone Wars. No,
right.
no. Episode one,
Two,
two,
Clone Wars,
Clone Wars, Rebels,
Rebels.
Bad Batch,
Oh, dude, I don't even know now. I don't even know. But
Sith. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith. Episode three,
yeah,
Andor season one, Andor season two, Rogue One, four, five, six. Yeah.
yeah, you're forgetting the solo movie though.
Oh yeah. Oh jeez. Yeah, yeah, that's somewhere in there.
But anyway, so what we're doing is what Jason just did, the chronological thing.
Yeah.
But I think I think I have my answer, and I do think release order is the way to watch it.
In this universe or in the Star Wars
In
universe?
in Star Wars.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
Oh,
and so but now I'm like, I'm not saying let's change anything. I'm not saying I officially regret doing it the way we did it, but I do wonder how different it would have been, or maybe like there would have been more insights or something if we had done release order, because like so many of the things after the fact, even though they are staying true to the timeline,
mm-hmm.
at the end of the day they're just trying to make a good TV show.
Yeah.
And but then when they do sprinkle in references like you're talking about, it's
Yeah.
like I can't, I don't pick anything up on them because like I haven't seen it. And I do wonder, like, if I had a time machine, if I would go back and say, no, buddy, let's do release order
Release
instead.
order, original series,
Yeah,
next generation.
yeah,
Yeah, that would have been, yeah. Yeah. Some other Gabe and Jason did do that or
yeah,
is doing that.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we play our cards right, we will essentially get on that, right? Because after
Yes,
this, because like, what is after this?
it is the
Um,
original series.
yeah, see, because we're
However,
almost,
however long Strange New Worlds goes, we don't know how long
yeah,
it's gonna go. But yeah,
and we
absolutely.
might have to flip flop between, because on Paramount there's only two seasons of Strange New Worlds. I don't know.
There is only at the moment
Okay,
there is only straight two seasons.
okay,
We could potentially be caught up by the time season three comes out.
yeah,
And then we will definitely be caught up by the time season 4 comes out,
Yeah.
but we
Mhm.
could potentially be caught up by season 2, 3.
Yeah, and we might have to flip-flop between original series and Strange New Worlds or
No,
do double features
no, I don't
if
think
we got
so.
caught up.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Because this is still before Kirk and Spock.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not gonna like stop
Oh,
doing these
sure, sure,
every
sure, sure,
week.
sure, 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 sure,
So,
sure. Yeah, then we may end up doing, yeah, we may
yeah.
have to be end up getting into the original series. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. Anything else with this episode?
Um, nope, I don't think so.
Cool. Next week we'll start on season 2,
Season
episode
2,
1.
yeah, episode 1, yeah.
See if number 1 gets out of it.
Yep.
And then, of course, since last time we talked, there has been 9 episodes of Andor,
Wow,
season
did we
2.
miss? Yeah, I guess we did. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's true because they did come out in a pack of 3 every week,
yeah,
and we haven't talked about it since week
yeah.
1.
So we're not going to dissect 9 episodes.
No,
Um,
I
just,
wish we
just,
could.
yeah, just, just general high level thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, really loved it. Really loved, especially episodes 7 through 9. But the whole season was great. The whole show was really great. I'll just say out of the gate, though, I did like season 1 more. That's not to
Mm-hmm.
say there's anything wrong with season 2. It's just that's how good season 1 was for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Season 1 was just perfect, perfect media for me, just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And so, nothing wrong with season 2. I thought they did an amazing job of just doing what Andor does, just exploring oppression and um, authoritarian regimes as much as I have in
Mm-hmm.
Andor
Mm-hmm.
because of how well they're written and acted. And obviously it's a universe that I've loved my whole life. And the way it was wrapped up, I had no idea where it was going, which is I had no idea where it was going, which is interesting because we know exactly we've seen Rogue One, so we know where Cassian ends up, but I still
Mm-hmm.
didn't know like how the show was going to play out. And I thought they did a good job of of sort of wrapping all the characters up appropriately in a satisfying way. Dedra going to prison, that was so poetic. I love
Narkina
that so much.
5? Narkina 5? Are we in agreement that that's Narkina 5 or some other? I know there's a bunch of other Imperial prisons, but do we think that's Narkina 5?
I don't think Narkina 5 exists anymore. I think it got shut down.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But that would be nice and poetic. I don't know if there's a way to tell from
Yeah,
the
I don't
shot
know.
we were given.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Oh, I do have to tell you something that so okay, I don't know how this happened. You're not going to believe this.
Okay.
Okay. So yesterday when the episodes released, episodes um 10, 11, 12, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So basically right at 6 o'clock I started watching,
mm-hmm.
and which is like right when they released. And my, my daughter was like trying to play with me, and then she started watching, and then it got kind of violent because I knew that Luthen was about to
Oh,
shoot his inside man.
Lonnie.
So I kind of turned it off, and then um, I came back to it, and so I was watching it in like little. little snippets
Mm-hmm.
throughout because then we were eating dinner and then I had to read to her, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow in the shuffle of that, I watched episode 10 and I must have like, it must have started episode 11 and I must have like accidentally pressed next episode. So Jason, I shit you not, dude. I watched episode 10
Mm-hmm.
and then I watched episode 12. And 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 I and I
Oh.
did not know that I missed anything.
Oh.
So I literally watched the entirety of episode 12
Yeah.
and then it ended and it was like you might like Rogue One instead of saying next episode. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
supposed
yeah,
to
yeah,
be
yeah.
there's supposed to be another episode.
Yeah.
And then I looked and I had skipped episode 11. So then I had to watch episode 11 after I already knew how
What
it
was gonna
wrapped
happen?
up.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I did that. I mean, are you telling me because I did that in the first arc
No.
where I started episode 3 and I'm like, oh, come on.
No. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
It's just weird how I have no idea how it happened, but
Yeah,
it was interesting. Like episode 11 was it was so Clea specific,
yeah,
and it's weird how it wasn't like um it was seamless enough that I didn't it didn't dawn on me that I was watching it out of order. I
yeah, yeah,
thought
yeah, yeah. Sure, 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 sure.
because like in episode 11, all that really happens is that um Andor, K2SO leave Yavin to go to Coruscant, to go to the apartment. And so when episode 12 starts, they're already there.
Yeah.
So in my head, it was like, well, I mean, we're skipping a year every week anyway. So we're just like skipping ahead to
Mm-hmm.
um obviously
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
we know that apartment very well because so I wasn't like, where is she? Like I knew exactly where
Right.
she was. I was like, well, clearly she just went to the apartment. You know, I can fill in the blanks. And so it was just such a bizarre moment for me. Even doing so, it didn't ruin it at all, but it was just such a crazy thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Um, okay. Like I said to you, this was before we started going live on YouTube.
Yeah,
I wanna um as you know, I love Star Wars. I'm not the biggest fan though. Like I'm not, I don't know every droid. I don't know, I'm a fan. But I'm not um what I'm gonna say, and I told my brother this. This is not sports hyperbole. This isn't like, oh my God, that's the greatest.
yeah,
I don't mean it in that way.
mm,
That this was the greatest shot or the greatest play or the greatest game I've ever seen.
sure,
So I don't want it to come off that way. And I've had 24 hours to let it sink in.
sure,
But Andor season 2, season 1 as well. But really Andor season 1 and 2 and Rogue One for me is the pinnacle of Star Wars, and it goes beyond that.
yeah,
Season 2 is probably the most beautifully packaged season of television, not just
sure,
Star Wars,
yeah,
but season of fictional television. And this to me goes right up there with some of the best episodes of anything that I've seen in my life.
yeah,
Star Trek, West Wing, all of my favorites, all of those
sure,
things.
yeah,
And I know a lot of fans are, there's probably some fans that will say yes, and probably some fans that will say no, this was too much, whatever.
Yeah.
too niche, whatever.
Hmm.
But to me, this was the pinnacle of Star Wars. I will say this is my favorite new trilogy in the
Yeah.
Star Wars universe. Andor season 1, Andor
Hmm.
season 2, and Rogue One.
Sure.
Season 2, the massacre, the behind the scenes build up of, Les Miserables, the French Revolution on a
Hmm.
fancy planet, the bellhop. I mean,
Yeah.
the bellhop, right? A
Yeah.
victim of
Hmm.
the Tarkin massacre, and he's a bellhop on this ritzy planet, and he goes, rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah.
And just the mastery of the entire thing. Tony Gilroy understands the socio, the socioeconomics, the sociology of
Hmm.
rebellion and the fights against fascism or authoritarianism.
Yeah.
And the way that he built, and Diego Luna,
Hmm.
this whole season was just magic. I like Genevieve O'Reilly. I mean, come on.
Yeah. She's great. She's amazing.
As Mon Mothma, people are giving Benjamin Bratt some, I've seen that freaking fantastic fill in for Jimmy Smith,
Yeah.
who was not available
Hmm.
as, you know, as Bail Organa, Denise Goff as Dedra Mero. I mean, Imperial Kinderblock kid, no family, raised in the Imperial system, rises up to the ISB, and because of the things that fell through the cracks and the complete secrecy and the complete like merciless acts of Krennic and Vader and Palpatine and the rest of the Empire,
Hmm.
she ends up in an Imperial prison. Come on,
Yeah.
you know, major post stars listening to what's his face's message from season 1 before he shoots himself with the Han
Um,
Solo blaster. Luthen,
yeah. Yemek.
yeah, Yemek, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, Luthen, Clea, Bix, Cassian Jr. I mean, uh, the whole thing was just magic and the pinnacle of Star Wars. And like I said, I'm vested. I'm a fan. But what pains me is that maybe this was just lightning in the box. Um,
Hmm.
and to me, I'm very small part of the fandom. But for me, this is the pinnacle of Star Wars and the creeping sadness of like the what if of what they could have done with that kind of thought process to 7, 8, and 9 or anything like that. And like again, my worry and it worries me a little bit is that for me, I will not ever get to see a better Star Wars
Yeah.
because there
Probably not.
probably won't be.
Yeah. I think there will be ones that will be inspired by it, and maybe it'll inspire new iterations of Star Wars, but
Yeah,
I don't think they'll have what it takes to pull off what Tony Gilroy has done and his brother Dan.
yeah,
Um, so, um, what are you satisfied with how all the characters concluded?
absolutely,
Luthen, Bix.
absolutely.
Okay.
Saw, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, the rhodium sniffing, that was beautifully done. And and
Mhm.
and like the way that we get to Saw in the end is because his sister died, and that's and yes, vengeance for Alderaan and the rebellion and all that stuff. But his character arc to where he is in Andor season 2, where he becomes this fanatic, and we see the reason why he's fanatical because he's living on the edge of
Hmm.
life and death.
Yep.
And and that monologue that he has in episode 5, 6 of season 2,
Hmm.
where he's just really sniffing in the glue, the rhydonium, whatever the stuff is called.
Hmm.
And you can like very clearly see that's his character arc, is that I'm fighting for this, for vengeance, and the Empire doesn't play by the rules, so why should I? And it's
Hmm.
that extreme that I love. And you and that and yeah, I loved where everybody ended up. It was so fitting. Cyril, who are you? Who are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Who are you? You're the guy. I've been after you for like years.
Yeah.
And the guy that you've gone after goes, "Who are you?"
Yeah. I was going to ask you my next question. What are your top three favorite moments? Because that was number one for me
Oh
when he
man.
said to
Oh my
Cyril,
God.
"Who are you?" Cyril had been obsessing about him, and Andor had no idea who he even was. Yeah.
Oh man.
For me, it's that. It's the Mon Mothma speech.
Yeah.
And we're just doing season two, and then
Yeah.
I'll go with Deidre going to jail. I thought
Prison. Yeah,
that
prison.
was so poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Saw Gerrera, his monologue in episode 5 or 6 or whatever. Um, Mon Mothma's speech, excuse me,
Yeah.
and the bellhop of Gorman.
Nice.
But but really though, um, my favorite moment was we see, what was it, B2,
Oh
and
yeah.
then we
Uh-huh.
pan up
Yeah.
and we see Bix walking in the
Hmm.
field,
Hmm.
and they do the camera turn, and she's got Cassian Jr., or whatever whoever the next
Yeah.
generation was. And
Poe Dameron.
yeah, Poe Dameron. Um, um, when she did that in the second arc of the
Hmm.
series, when she left,
Yeah.
I was going to say, I I had it written down on a list, but
Hmm.
I was gonna say, one, she's either pregnant, or the fact that no, that's all I was gonna say. Was I was like, I think she's pregnant.
Interesting. Interesting. It didn't cross my mind because they were together so long. They were together at least 2 years.
Yeah,
That I figured they were using protection that whole time. So I was like, well, why now? But it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense that she would, want to protect what matters, and that's a big reason why she left.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it gives me hope that that there's another story to be told there. But
we got it. He's Poe Dameron. He's Oscar
he is
Isaac.
not Oscar Isaac. It does not make sense in the timeline.
We don't know how old he is.
Well, he's a baby before the Battle of Yavin. before the Battle
Yeah.
of Yavin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's got to be 40 years plus if it's
It's probably
30
like,
years after Return of the Jedi, 30, 40 years after Return of the Jedi,
I don't think it's 30 or 40 years after Return of the Jedi.
when we get to Force Awakens.
Yeah. I mean, how old is Ben Solo?
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
20?
Yeah, who knows?
So it's like less than 20 after
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi.
Is that a thing, or you just is that a real thing that people are
What?
saying? Oh, he's Poe Dameron.
People are jokingly saying that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. No,
Yeah.
he's not Poe Dameron.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's Poe Dameron. Um, I doesn't give a shit about anything like that, about
Yeah.
like planting those seeds or
No,
whatever. So,
no, 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 no,
if it was any other showrunner, I would say, yeah, it's got to be someone. But
no,
yeah,
no, no. I don't think he. And that's the thing. I love that about him. It's he wasn't like a professed Star Wars fan, but he was able to
yeah,
pull it off and yeah, tell a really great. I'm sorry, buddy. The Gorman Massacre, the entire that storyline.
yeah,
Ah, ah. Maybe because I am like a student of history and rebellions and social
hmm
like
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
hmm
Um, yeah, I love that. That was brilliant.
totally agree, totally agree. I and um, So I think one of the things that I thought season one did better was the monologues, but Mon Mothma's speech, you just can't compete with that. You know, like
No.
when she says the distance between what we know is true
Yeah.
and what is said, you know, if we can't even like agree on an objective reality, then like that's the final insult. Just stuff like that. Like that resonates so much. Like when you watch the news now, there is just this endless need to win to the point where politicians or people in power just lie to your face
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as a means of undermining the other side just so that they can take the reins and they can win. And then when you're on the other side of it and you hear the supporters defending those points, you feel like, to quote Anchorman, I feel like I'm taking crazy
Crazy
pills. Like,
pills.
yeah, I think I know it was Will Ferrell. I don't know if it was Anchorman, but you just you can't comprehend it. And to me,
Mugatu. He
the
was
only way,
Mugatu. It was Will Ferrell, but he was playing Mugatu.
what's Mugatu?
Mugatu from Zoolander.
There you go. Okay. Um, yeah. And you just feel like to me, the only way I can reconcile it is they're
Yeah.
just desperate to win somehow in their worldview and their story. They were told that winning is all that matters. And there is no social contract. You don't owe people the truth. You don't owe them your integrity. You just say whatever it is to win. And like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is exactly that's exactly how the real world works. And like I feel like that's what was the cautionary tale of this show, in my opinion. And so
After that
yeah,
episode, I will admit that I had to go. I went and watched. I had to find it first. I was like, "What is that one?" It was a Rebels episode, season 2 or 3,
yeah,
called Secret Cargo,
yeah,
where they're the ones that took her. And I love that they didn't retcon that, and that
yeah,
you know, um, yeah, the other Mothma speech.
right, right. Yeah, I think that was one of the last episodes of
Yeah, I think
Rebels.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean everything. Just everything. th last night, that one scene where Krennic is, um, he is, he's interrogating Dedra Romero,
Yeah, yeah,
and he puts his thumb on her head,
yeah.
and the squeeze on that, and you're like, uh-oh, she's in trouble.
Yep.
Like the secret of this thing, of this weapon,
Hmm.
is like, oh, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And then, and then the, and then the scene where Aunt Cassian is, he's brought back Clea, and he's confronted, and he's reporting out to the leaders of the rebellion, Mon Mothma, Admiral
Hmm.
Raddus, the other senators, Bail Organa.
Yeah.
That cringe moment where it was tough, and they're like, there you can sense there's this paranoia of like, that can't be true. This isn't, we can't believe that they built a weapon, that this is
Hmm.
all tied together, and that we're
Yeah.
not going to take steps. We don't believe in Luthen Rail. We don't believe in Saw Gerrera. We don't believe all these things.
Yep.
That was beautifully done. And then, I mean, come on. The tie back to Luthen Rail's monologue in season one, what have I given up for? And they tie it back, and you see the female version of Cassian. I
Hmm.
think that was done on purpose. I think Clea is the female version of Cassian Andor.
Hmm.
Grew up the orphan, taken in by a former Imperial, officer that did wrong,
Yep.
sees the light,
Hmm.
and takes her in, like kills her family, takes
Yeah.
her in,
Hmm.
and like, how do you, like, if you're clear, like, how do you even, and then the strings that fall through, like, how do you even, like, forgive this man, and then he becomes your father,
Yep.
and that conflict, that's just, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I have some small gripes with or episode 12.
Yeah,
I
fire
won't get
away.
into them.
Yeah,
No,
no,
it
fire
doesn't
away.
matter. It doesn't
No,
matter.
no, 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 no. Go for it. It will not, like, take it away. Take anything
May
away.
Well, so maybe more than that. So in the Gorman front, when Cyril sees Andor, I loved that that happened. I needed a little bit more time for Cyril. I needed his face to contort. It was a little too abrupt. Obviously, it was a very chaotic situation, but I
Yes.
would have loved for like the music to cut out or something, or just have a moment where you see his face, where he goes from his sort of abject, sort of just what have I done to like to changing to oh my God, there's Andor.
Yeah,
I felt, I mean, they showed his face, but I don't think they quite nailed it there. I would have liked to see something more there.
sure.
And then in episode 12, that scene you were talking about where Cassian's trying to convince them about the weapon, like if you just take a step back, they can't buy into him without retconning um Rogue One.
Yeah,
They Because in Rogue One the fleet comes after the fact and he is sort of on his own, and
yeah,
so they have to have them skeptical. I don't know if I totally bought it that they were would have been that skeptical. But I also think they could have done it better if they would have revealed more about the weapon, because they just kept talking about a weapon, a super weapon, I feel like they needed to say that it's a weapon capable of destroying a planet
We don't know
because
that yet.
that's what I'm saying, because they can't, because then that would retcon the thing. And so it made it um they just didn't quite stick it for me. And
Okay,
I know you're gonna defend it, so go ahead. But it
I
just
am.
for me it wasn't enough.
I will defend it in this way. When you have, see, this is why I think it's so brilliant. I love the fact that because it's the way it works. I love the fact when you have an alliance, yes, you're fighting the Empire. Great.
Mm-hmm.
That's your, if you're looking at it from first principles, right? That's your end goal. Defeat the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
What I love, and I love that they did this because the fantasy of, oh, we're all getting along and we're all this one big empire if you're an imperial, or we're all getting along under this camp of the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
What I think, and I will argue this in any situation, you can take this out of Star Wars, and you could have this could have been a World War II movie. It could have been some other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'm in the very much the minority because this would have been my movie, like, sort of like my perfect Star Wars movie. But that's again, what what I love is that there are divisions. There
Mm-hmm.
is disagreement amongst even the rebel leaders, and
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
all.
Mm-hmm.
And you get Admiral Raddus later on in Rogue One that's going like, "Yep, I believe it. I'm going. I don't care. I'm going. You guys don't have to go. I'm going."
Yep.
I love the fractionality of it.
I know you do.
The
Yeah.
Saw Gerrera, the very guerrilla,
Mm-hmm.
like militant guerrilla like wing of this. And then you get everybody else and you're trying to form this alliance. And then Luthen Rail and
Yeah.
Clea, who is also, you know, founders of the alliance and founders of the rebellion. And then you get to see Mon Mothma's like her reticence. You can see that in a lot of you see that in some of the leaders today, like Democrats who aren't willing to speak up because they want to play by the rules and they want to do it the right way because there's a moral high ground and we don't want to fall into the being like the Empire, like Saw Gerrera. He's gonna throw that rule book away, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But she's in the middle and she has to hold this together. And I love that because that's much more of a true sense of trying to hold different people together. Yes, you're trying to get here to be, but it's the journey of getting to be, of defeating the empire, which I love. And it's not always, kumbaya, and that there is reticence.
Yeah,
And
but there's also desperation. And we don't know
I don't, but we don't know that. If
Ian's
we sit,
the game plan at this point. I think for me it would have resonated more if they had a plan in place, and then Andor bringing this up was going to detract from that or maybe take away resources from it, and they
Mhm.
were like, no, this is the path we're taking, you're not going to call an audible right
Which
now.
they did.
But
They did. They do say that.
what what was their game plan at that
They
point?
said they did because one, they first of all they didn't believe Luthen, even though I think Mon should have stood up and
That
said,
no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They didn't quite stick it, because like her whole arc was getting money at the behest of Luthen, and
right.
the fact that she didn't say anything to me was what I'm saying is they didn't quite convince me that again, it was just apparent the whole reason they were doing the scene is because they couldn't retcon Rogue One, as opposed to it being
Yeah.
a truly organic part of the arc. And they were like trying to um, invent suspicion when it didn't quite come off. And again, I started this by saying this is me nitpicking.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no.
and like if I had to nitpick one part, but
Yeah.
this would be one of the reasons why I like season one better, just because they had more runway for one.
Sure, 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 sure. Sure.
anytime you try to like weave the two
See,
together,
I'm
it always
happy.
gets messy.
I'm very excited that they went there. And that at this point, at this point, and see, I think and that's why the mercilessness and the cruelty of the Empire shows of the information leaking out that there was something. Don't know
Hmm.
what. And in isolation of Rogue One, like and of Star Wars, I'm like, yeah, I can turn that off and be like, okay, I don't know at this point in my life, I don't know that there's a Death Star, what the Death Star is. It's just words. And to me, them not knowing where to go and what to do and to believe it or not, whether it was whether it is what this weapon is, a
Hmm.
planet destroying thing. I don't think they foundationally could conceive that at that point. And if you distrust Luthen because it's been a while since you've seen him and that he might have gone crazy.
Yeah. Well, okay. Have you ever done like an escape room or like a team activity where you're trying to figure something
Oh
out?
yeah. Oh,
Where
absolutely.
situations, there's this high stakes urgency in any new tidbit. There is, in my opinion, a human um sort of like a human tendency to not just jump headlong into it. Like you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have some caution, but you're
Mm-hmm.
like you're desperate for a solution and you're desperate for intel and you do not just shut things down immediately. And this like ragtag rebellion that doesn't have a lot of runway, I'm sure they're constantly out of funds,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
short-handed,
Mm-hmm.
short on men. If someone comes with this nugget, I do not buy that you're immediately going to shut it down, no matter what Luthen did, especially Mon Mothma, who had such a long history with him and was his benefactor for years.
Hang on.
And
Hang on. You're missing a key component though.
no,
Remember though, remember in the one of the in the last scene they talk to each other.
yeah, yeah. She says, "I'm
She
terrified.
springs
I'm
doubt.
not more terrified of anyone but you right now." But Um, that's only because he kills people who see him, not because she doesn't trust his intel or his ability to build rebellions and to amass important resources. She has no doubt in his capabilities. She's just scared of him and she thinks she's next. And so if Castian says Luthen said this, he has a perfect track record of being the elite spy for the rebellion and getting things that no one else is
See,
even close to
I
getting.
don't think that I don't think that
When did he like fail then? What give me an example of
I
when he would like shake her confidence in himself to give good quality information? Because up until that point, she followed everything he said.
did she though?
Yeah, her entire involvement with the rebellion. She didn't even know what Yavin was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
until
No, that's true. No, that's
until
true. That's true.
Luthen
That's
sent
true.
Andor to bring her
That's
into the
true.
fold.
That's true. So where I disagree is that she She is shaken to the core, though. I do believe that she was shaken. I mean, she had his aide fired.
Hmm.
So yes, I do believe that there was doubt. And then, although at the same time, I will see that she does tell what's her face, make me believe him. Make me
Who
believe Andor.
does she say that to?
She says that to Cinta. No, Vela.
Clea?
No, 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 no. The his not Clea, but the redhead
Oh,
lesbian
Cinta. No,
Cinta.
so I'm sorry. Cinta is her lover. You're talking about her cousin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Her cousin.
Her
So
cousin, yeah.
so Mon Mothma tells Andor, make me believe him.
At what point though?
After that briefing. So
Right.
there
But
is
that's
reticence there. There is
yeah,
reticence
yeah,
in
again,
who.
but
Yeah.
that's just a continuation of what I'm nitpicking. Like that doesn't make sense. Like Luthen has never been wrong. He's sacrificed everything. Clearly, he is a rebel, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no question of Luthen's
Mm-hmm.
intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Like Luthen is ruthlessly trying to build a rebellion at any cost.
Mm-hmm.
He's willing to kill anybody to do
Yes.
this. So there's no question of his integrity as far as like trying to destroy the empire.
At
And
the
so she has
same
no
time,
reason to
though,
doubt Luthen.
no, she does not. But at the same time, and this is but that's the brilliance of this entire thing is like she is a leader, but she's not the one that says what I say goes. She is
Yeah.
trying to build a consensus, and there
Mhm.
is disagreement amongst those who don't know him, don't know Luthen. So that's where the beauty of the paranoia of the rebel leadership comes in, where you're like, what do we believe? What don't believe? We believe. So yes, you are absolutely correct at the nitpick, but holding together people who don't necessarily have the same, because we don't have the same thought patterns and the same vision of where to on how to get there. We want to get there, and that's the beauty of it is like who can you trust and who can you believe? And Bail Organa not having that, the other two senators, the African American woman, and then the guy, and then the both repeats from Rogue One and in
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I'm like, yeah, that's a beautiful scene of like, yes, I love that. That's a group of people that, yeah, they kind of agree, but they're not, but there's not one heavy-fisted like leader. And
Yeah.
there are factions because it's
No,
an
yeah.
alliance.
Yeah. Not asking for them to be like, okay, Andor, we believe you. Just the like immediate aggressive resistance I thought was a little forced. To me, it should have been like many Bothans died to bring us this information. The weight of that
Hang
sentence
on, hang
gets
on, hang
everyone
on,
on
hang on,
board.
hang on. But you know that about Mon Mothma because we get to see that. We get this Mon Mothma isn't there yet. She hasn't. There's a lot of years in there that we have to get to before she becomes. Many Bothans have died to bring us this information.
But everyone in the room says, okay, Mon Mothma, you're right. What's the plan? All right, here's the plan. Let's go. And
By
and
that
and
time, yes. By
but
that time, yes. This time, no.
what's different between the times? We
It's the
just have a
it's the
we have a group of rebels desperate. They don't this isn't like a well-funded military who
it
has
is
time to
not.
sit back
It
on
is
their
not. It is
laurels. They
not.
do not have time. They don't have
And
time for this.
they don't know that. They don't
They
know
don't know
that.
they don't have time.
They don't because again, in isolation, and this is why it's beautifully done. And the character arc of it is beautiful. Is that they are still this young thing They don't know what the Death Star is. They don't know if that's real. They don't know that there hasn't been this escalation of this centralized hegemonic power thing. And this is why I said the Gorman episodes were beautifully done because in every other one it's mostly alien. And this is the first time. And this is why I think they had to destroy and go after a humanoid planet. Because this was the first time the Empire really turned evil.
No way, man. This would have been after Order 66, after Palpatine. Like, they're definitely full on evil at this point.
They are, but the shock to the system was that they committed genocide on people that in the Empire you would have said, yeah, you're cool. Except this time they were on a planet that had Calcite and they needed it to develop this weapon.
Okay.
Because this was because this was one of the first times because remember, Palpatine enslaves and causes these atrocities to mostly alien planets, not
Hmm.
humanoid.
Hmm.
And that's why that I was like, you can't do it any other way. It has to be human. Because then you see Dedramiro, you see Cyril and go, oh, we will turn on a humanoid face. It's not just aliens that we're going to enslave and destroy planets from. We do want humanoids.
But this would be a year after the
Yeah,
Gorman.
yeah, yeah. But
So I
in
still argue a year
isolation,
is enough for
not
them
knowing,
and for
because
them to
again,
be.
because again, right? How do you go and say we know that there's this big planet destroying thing,
Mhm.
and then you watch episode 4 and go, that's not a that's no moon, that's a space station. And how
Mhm.
do you go like, you know, to make that statement like that was the first time ever that they would destroy the entire planet with the Senate, all that kind of stuff in episode 4. If you play it that way, you're revealing all your cards.
I okay. Well, I do think that I'm maybe like a little bit hyper focused on this because I'll watch
Because
like
you know
a
what
pre
is going
no
to
no no
happen.
no 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 no. I watched like a prequel like Better Call Saul, which is before Breaking Bad,
Oh, okay.
and they have to make a TV show. It has to be a bunch of episodes that are good first, and then weaving together with the subsequent thing
Yeah.
is a secondary or tertiary goal.
Yeah.
And it like it always comes together at the end, and it's just not quite seamless. And I
Sure.
think I
Sure.
think Star Wars is a great example of that.
Yes.
In
Yes.
Episode 3,
Oh.
there's so many things they had to do.
Yes.
We have to meet Luke and Leia's mother. He has to turn to Darth Vader. Um, Yoda's got to exile. We have to figure out why Luke's on Tatooine, and
Yeah.
it all kind of just like crashes together
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
end.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah.
where like if you were envisioning it as I envisioned it as a kid, all of
Yeah.
those things were all these well formed, carefully laid out things, but you can't do that in a movie or a show because then you lose the essential components of a story, which
Hmm.
you have to have, otherwise it doesn't exist. It's not entertaining. If it's just a string of plot points, it just
Sure.
doesn't work. And all I'm trying to say is, for as brilliant as this show was, there was just a few moments at the end there that
Sure.
just didn't quite stick that for me.
Sure.
um like they were talking about Scarif, and so we don't even know what that is. If we had never seen Rogue One, we don't know
Right.
what that is.
Right.
But they had to say that as a way to sort of fill that scene.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just wasn't enough for me, but
Okay.
it's all good.
Okay.
And now we have no more Star Wars to look forward to. Is there any Star Wars to look forward
Yeah,
to?
isn't there aren't there like
Mando and Grogu?
no, isn't there isn't there the the Balin Skull animated um
Oh,
it's
with
not
Darth
just
Maul?
Balin Skull, but like the mini episodes, those like mini
Yeah, that released, I think, already. Yeah.
yeah, but just
I think
recently though, right?
I think Ventress is in it,
Yeah,
and
yeah, 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 exactly.
I never watched all of those Tales of the Jedi or whatever they're called.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
I think
it's
I
from that from
watched
it.
I think I watched the Count Dooku one.
Uh-huh.
Um, I assume it'll be a similar thing to that, but
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Maybe I will now. Maybe once some time has passed, because it's just been a intense month of TV. Maybe there'll be a lull, and I'll
Yeah.
have to fill it with some animated Star Wars. But
Yeah.
we have Ahsoka season two. We have
I'm excited for that one.
we have the Mando movie. Um, there's always a string of alleged movies in the pipeline. Who Lord knows if they'll ever come to fruition.
Who knows?
But so anyway, listeners of this podcast, we're gonna have a little lull in our Star Wars discussion,
Yeah.
but it'll be okay. We'll survive. We'll talk Star Trek. All right, man. Anything
Okay.
else?
No, I think no, I think that's it.
Cool. Well, everyone, this was a really long one. We're almost at an hour 40.
Yeah. It's
But
almost 2 hours, but
with
you know
with
what?
nine hour
They got
with
double
nine
content.
yeah, with 9 hours of Andor to cover, I think we did all right. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe on YouTube. Please follow us on Spotify. And until next time, live long and prosper.
Jolon True, buddy.
And yeah,
May the force be with you. Yes.
I should have signed off with some Andor quotes like rebellions are built on hope or stone and sky. Oh man, there's a lot of them. Anyway,
Yeah.
maybe next time. All right, I'll see you.
Take care, buddy.
Bye. All right, amigo.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, man. It's good to
Thank you.
talk
What are you
to
guys
you.
doing this weekend?
We are going to a Diamondbacks game. I know that. And I think that's our
Ooh.
only plan. What about you?
How you guys usually
What?
get down there?
We just drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Parking is not too bad downtown?
So whenever we do something like that, it's usually with Becky's company tickets, and we get parking with the tickets.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys got um mining tickets.
Yeah. They have a suite in like all the big arenas, and so she
Yeah.
puts in for a lottery.
Are you going to break on your diet and go hog
No,
heaven on the
nah, I'm not.
ah
Not worth it.
the
I'm
Asian
t
in me has got to go pig out
I'm
on
taking a I'm
free
taking a
food.
life or death mentality about this.
Do you
Like,
know who they're playing?
no, I don't. Not
Okay.
yet. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be a good time.
Yeah.
But what about you? You guys have any plans?
No. I think we're gonna stay home and probably still unpack and pack and stuff because yeah. I think there might be a rain game this weekend, but I'm not sure.
You have so many tickets, you just lost track.
Yeah, I've lost. Actually, no, we don't have a rain game. There's no home game for a while, and there's no Portland home game for a while. So,
Got it. All right, buddy.
all right. Good seeing you,
Thank you.
buddy. Yep. Nope. Thank you.
Next week.